All right, how you guys doing today? We have a super exciting math lesson for you today on solving quadratics, finding those zeros. The last lesson we did finding them when we could factor a difference of perfect squares. Today, we're going to be talking about trinomials again. However, this time where there's a coefficient that is not equal to 1. So if you look at the first example, we have a 3 in the front, which makes things a little bit more difficult. Now, if you remember back to our factoring unit, this is where we need to use slip and slide. So we're going to be doing the same thing here today. If you don't remember slip and slide, it may be worth your while to go check those videos out from before where we did some examples with slip and slide, because that's what we're going to be using here today. So I look for a GCF and I don't have one, but I have a trinomial with a coefficient that is bigger than 1. So this is where I'm going to take this 3 and I'm going to slip it out to here. And I have x squared now minus 16x minus 36 equals 0. Remember, our goal here is to figure out what x is. So now I have a trinomial, and now I do have a coefficient of 1 because I got rid of that 3. In essence, I slipped it over here to multiply it. So now off to the side here, I can make a little x. I'm looking for two numbers that will multiply to negative 36, but at the same time, add to negative 16. So it looks like in this particular example, we're going to be talking about 2 and negative 18. 2 times negative 18 is negative 36. 2 plus negative 18 is negative 16. So off to the side here, I've got x plus 2. And then I have x minus 18 is equal to 0. Now remember, just like when we did this before with factoring, if we slip our 3 out here and multiply that, we have to slide it back in and make this each term here divided by 3. So what we did the last time is we would pop this 3 up top and make this 3x plus 2. And this actually divides unevenly, so we're lucky here. And we have this, 3x plus 2, x minus 6 is equal to 0. So we're going to do the same thing here, and we're going to solve each of those equations. So I'm going to have 3x plus 2 is equal to 0, and x minus 6 is equal to 0. Now, this first one's a little bit more difficult, but not too bad, which is minus 2 minus 2. So I'm going to have 3x equals negative 2. And when I divide by 3, I'm going to get x equals negative 2/3. Over here, I'm going to add 6 to both sides. And I'm going to get x equals positive 6. So my two answers here, my two roots, are going to be negative 2/3 and positive 6. Now, little shortcut for you. If you don't feel comfortable using this, you certainly don't have to. But if you take a look at this step right here, once we get to here, you don't have to worry about popping this 3 up front, okay? When you're solving this, you're going to be subtracting this on both sides. That's going to lead you to this answer. So instead of popping this 3 up front, you can just say, oh, opposite of 2/3, negative 2/3. Opposite of negative 6, positive 6. And you can kind of save yourself this work right here if you do that. Now, if you don't understand that, or that seems a little too complicated for you, feel free to do this work down here. It's just going to take you a couple of seconds longer. All right, let's do one more example of what we did here today before we leave you for today. So this next example I have 6x squared minus 13x plus 6 is equal to 0. If you want to, maybe pause your video and see if you can do this one on your own and check back to see if you got the right answer. Or you can stay with me and I'll explain one more example here. All right, so again, I'm gonna look for a GCF like I normally do, but I don't wanna overcomplicate things today. There's no GCF. So this is an example where, again, I have a coefficient that's bigger than 1. So I'm gonna use slip and slide. I'm gonna multiply this 6 by this 6 here, and I'm gonna get x squared minus 13x plus 36 is equal to 0. Now I have a trinomial that does have a coefficient of 1, so I can make my x. Again, I have a 36 on the top and negative 13 on the bottom. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to 36 and add to negative 13. In this case, we're going to have negative 9 and negative 4. So I'm going to have x minus 9, x minus 4 is equal to 0. And I now have to slide this 6 back in. So I've got x minus 9, 6, and x minus 4, 6 is equal to 0. We do want to make sure we reduce these fractions as much as possible. So I'm going to make this x minus 3 halves and x minus 2/3 equal to 0. Now I'm going to kind of use the shortcut that I talked to you about in the last example, and instead of popping this 2 up here and making it 2x minus 3, I'm just going to do x minus 3 halves equals 0 and x minus 2/3 equals 0. So all I'm doing is adding 3 halves to both sides. So I'm going to get x equals 3 halves. And in the other side, I'm going to add 2/3, and I get x equals 2/3. So my two roots in this example are 3 halves and 2/3. All right. Hopefully this video was helpful to you. Let me know if you need some further clarification. I'd be happy to make some more videos for you or explain these further. And I will talk to you tomorrow with another lesson on quadratics.